Hello, everyone. Welcome. Uh, welcome to Channeling Your Inner Explorer, encouraging curiosity in young learners and teens. And we're so excited to have Dr. Asha de Vos doing our presentation today. So I just am going to do a little introduction to Asha, and then I will hand it over to her quickly. Okay, so Dr. Asha de Vos is a Sri Lankan marine biologist, ocean educator, and pioneer of blue whale research within the northern Indian Ocean. She calls the population of whales in the water around Sri Lanka the unorthodox whales because through many years of research, she has discovered that they are simply different. She has degrees from the University of St. Andrews, University of Oxford, and the University of Western Australia, but escaped academia to establish her own Sri Lankan growth nonprofit, Ocean Swell. She also runs the Sri Lankan Blue Whale Project, which is the first long-term study on blue whales in her region, and her work has led to many key research publications that are used to inform policy at the local and global level. Additionally, Asha's work has been showcased internationally by Channel 7 Australia, the BBC, the New York Times, CNN, Wired UK, The New Scientist, TED, Grist, Good, and National Geographic. Asha is the first and only Sri Lankan to have a PhD in marine mammal research, the first Pew Fellow in Marine Conservation from Sri Lanka, and also the first National Geographic Emerging Explorer from her small island nation, which is very exciting. Asha is also a TED Senior Fellow, an Ocean Conservation Fellow at the New England Aquarium, a Duke Global Fellow in Marine Conservation, a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader, and currently serves as a Senior Advisor to Oceana. Asha's life's work is to change the current marine conservation model, protect this unique population of blue whales, and inspire the next generation of ocean heroes from the developing world. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Asha de Vos. Let me turn it over to you, Asha. Oh, and just one more thing before I switch over. If anyone is experiencing any technical difficulties, please email us at ngl.webinars@cengage.com, and I'm going to type that into the chat box. It's just a little bit easier for us to deal with it rather than typing any issues into the chat box directly. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Asha, I'm going to switch over to you.
Perfect. All right, greetings everybody. I'm super excited to be here today, and thank you so much for signing up to spend either your early morning or your late night or you're somewhere in between here with me today. So just like they're having a little bit of trouble in Boston, I'm having a little bit of trouble here in Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful tropical island, but with the tropical island comes torrential rain at certain times of the year, and that seems to be kind of affecting my internet connection a little bit. So you won't get to see my face on video, which might not be a bad thing for all of you. But hello, it's great to see where everyone's coming from. I'm very excited. I've seen a couple of friends on the list as well. So I feel a lot of pressure. That's fine. I can handle this. So thanks for being so interactive. This is great for me actually because I don't know, it's much more fun being able to actually talk to people rather than actually talking to myself and talking at a computer screen. So keep the conversation going. I love it. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about channeling your inner explorer and how you as teachers and mentors and parents and guardians can perhaps, bring out the explorer in all the people that you influence and all the lives you touch. And of course, I'm not here to teach you how to teach because I'm not a teacher per se. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about my own life and how my journey, some of the lessons I've learned in my journey, can maybe, be a few pointers that you can think about when you, as you go about your daily life and changing the lives of all these kids. So to start off with, I'd say most importantly, you need to identify your own mission. So I think it's really important to identify your mission because that allows you to then be able to focus or channel your energy in the right direction in terms of how you work with others and how you influence everyone else. So So just so you know, my mission is, my dream is to be a voice from a part of the world that is rarely listened to, speaking on behalf of a part of the planet that is often overlooked. And so by this I mean, basically I want to be able to represent the ocean, because it's a part of the world of the planet that's often overlooked. The ocean is 70% of our planet, and yet only a handful of people actually work for the ocean. And it's a very overlooked part of the ocean. I think sometimes people just think about the ocean as, a space that's not relevant to them. You live in the mountains, you don't think that the ocean is part of your life. You live on the coastline, you think the ocean is a dumping ground. And this is kind of like a little bit of an unfortunate thing. So, and when I say I want to be a voice from a part of the world that is rarely listened to, I mean that I come from Sri Lanka, which is in South Asia and the developing world. And quite often, we have, there's not a, 70% of the coastlines around the world are actually within the developing world. But unfortunately, representation from these parts of the ocean are very low. And so I want to be able to spearhead that and change that. I want to inspire other kids from our parts of the world to actually come out and start speaking for the ocean, start working for the ocean. So the first point, the first thing I think is that, the first thing you want to remind any student, any kid, is that there is no such thing as overnight success. So I put a picture up here of me, at TED, speaking at a TED conference. And the reason I use it is because, to me, talking on the TED stage, having a talk on TED Talks, TED.com, was a huge moment in my life. It allowed me to take my work to a really huge audience, and take these stories of the ocean, things I'm passionate about, to a much broader audience than I would normally have access to. And the point being that this particular moment in time was the result of decades of hard work, decades of choices, decades of options, decades of challenges. And that is the most important thing. So, sometimes people ask me, if you could change one thing in your life, what would you do? And I think to myself, even the worst moments, even the hardest moments, I wouldn't change a thing. Because if I did, I would be right here, sitting here in Sri Lanka, talking to all of you out there, right? Like I am doing right now, if I change one thing. Because that little change could potentially change the whole trajectory of my life, right? So to remind kids, you know what? You have to keep at it. Don't give up. There might be pitfalls, but you know what? Challenges are things you can climb over or walk around. And everyone faces challenges in life. So my story actually starts when I was about 6 years old. So anyone out there who started their dreams of whatever the career that they are in right now, when you were that young, please ping me. It's cool to know that there might be other people who were that obsessive at such a young age. So that's me, the pigtails. On the right-hand side of your image, the other one's my brother. And this is us playing as sailors in our home here in Sri Lanka. And when I was about 6, I thought I wanted to be an adventurous scientist. That was my dream. And funnily enough, that dream began with National Geographic magazines. My parents used to bring secondhand National Geographic National Geographic magazines home, and I used to flip through these pages, and I used to think to myself, oh my goodness, I want to be one of these people when I grow up. I would see myself in those pages. I would almost replace the faces of these explorers, apologies to all explorers, with myself, and think how I could be doing these things, seeing things that no one else will ever see, going places that no one else will ever go. And that's really spurred a lot of things in my life. So gradually I started to discover the wonders of water. I became a swimmer, and that dream just sculpted into something much more specific, which was this dream to become a marine biologist. So I was having these crazy audacious dreams from a very young age. And I guess what I'd love to ask you all to do is to encourage all the kids, all the students, all the lives you touch, people to dream big. You can have audacious dreams, and that's okay. And I'll tell you, you will get a sense of why this particular dream is so audacious as I go along with my story. But you know, the most important thing is you should encourage people to dream big. And remember that, you know, we live in a world today where it's a crazy world. Stuff is changing, technology is changing our lives so rapidly. There might be jobs out there that haven't yet been created, and your students might be the ones to create those jobs. They might be the ones to dream beyond the box that we are usually placed in and come up with solutions for our planet that we may not be thinking of right now. And so your to encourage them to dream crazy is going to really help them on this path, and they will therefore in turn be able to help our planet and our, you know, because we're so interlinked with what happens in our planet. So I'm going to take you to Sri Lanka now. I'm very excited. As I told you, it's a beautiful tropical island. And as a result, we have these crazy monsoon rains, which are, you know, the reason we can't have video today. But I hope you can see the little yellow dot in the Indian Ocean. I'm going to zoom in now. That's where I am right now, Sri Lanka. Really beautiful tropical island in the heart of the Indian Ocean, and a very, very unique, beautiful place with tropical palm trees and beautiful sandy beaches, and just the most beautiful lifestyle. It's warm all year round. It's absolutely fabulous. As you can all see, it is an island and it's surrounded by ocean. So, you know, naturally you're going to think this island is full of marine biologists. But remember how I told you that when I told people, when I dreamt of being a marine biologist, it was a very audacious, big dream. Well, the reality is we don't have marine biologists in Sri Lanka. I'm one of a very small handful of marine biologists in this country. Now that's going to seem weird to you, but let me give you a little bit of cultural context. I know we have a lot of participants from places like India and Sri Lanka right now who understand what I'm saying. Maybe some of you, some others will also have experienced this. But in our cultures, if you're going to study and go to university, you're going to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a business person, because those are careers that bring, you know, bring money, stability, societal status, and of course, marriage. It makes you so much more attractive because you have a stable job. So, you know, it depends on what you choose, really. But for me, I was just really excited because I thought marine biologist was clearly the best option. Think about it. It's an island. I felt like the world was my oyster. And I started to dream huge. And I thought, you know what? I would tell people I'm going to carve my own niche. And that's essentially what I've done. So then I told people when I got to about 18, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited because it was time to sort of, my school was over and I could now take these options in life to become a marine biologist. And so, I you know, started telling people, wow, I'm going off, I'm going to do marine biology. And so many people, so many Sri Lankans turned to me and said, well, what are you going to do with that degree? And oh, okay, well, you know, you'll become a marine biologist and you won't come home. Because for them, they didn't see scope because they were living inside this box. For me, I didn't see a box. Nobody had taught me that impossible was a word. My parents told me, do what you love and you'll do it well. And so therefore, you know, I could dare to dream. And I said to people, I'll carve my own niche. I will come back. My dream is to change what's happening in the oceans over the world, but I also really want to serve Sri Lanka, South Asia, and the developing world. And I want to inspire people to believe that it's possible to do anything that you want. So what I want you to do at this point, my point is, you know, empower your students to do what they want because it's their life. You know, my parents empowered me with the simple statement, do what you love and you'll do it well. And that, I cannot tell you how important those words have been to me through my life, because I only do what I love and I ensure that I do it well. And it's easy. I don't consider my life, I don't consider what I do a job. I consider what I do my life. And it makes me very happy to wake up every morning when I get up, because I know that there's something exciting and it's this job that I really love. So if you can empower your students and tell them, you know, just support them in their dreams and let them know it's their life and they are free to make decisions about their lives. cultures may, have be training, but we can all break out of those cultures if we are supported sufficiently. And you know what? The students you teach when you are no more, they have to live with their own life decisions. So why shouldn't they be the ones making the decision about their own life? So at 18, off I go. This brave 18-year-old. I couldn't study marine biology in Sri Lanka because, like I said, we don't have marine biologists. We don't have the infrastructure, the support, the courses to become marine biologists on this beautiful tropical island. So I had to make a decision, and so did my parents. So I set off to, actually, funny enough, St Andrews, Scotland. Is there anyone out there who lives in Scotland? Do give me a shout. Beautiful country. The weather, however, is quite different to what I experienced out in Sri Lanka. So, cold and wet and a little bit gloomy, but I have to say I loved the country. It was beautiful. The people were fabulous, and I really enjoyed my stay when I was out there. So at 18, a lot of big things. I took new challenges. I was living away from my family for the first time, halfway across the world, in a totally different culture. And while I had done some traveling as a child, these were new challenges. But I took them and I enjoyed my time in St. Andrews. I learned wildly. I learned everything I could. I was lucky enough to be taught by some of the most inspiring, passionate marine biologists in the world. And so I had this incredible opportunity, and I was very, very happy, and I felt very grateful. But at the end of 4 years, I thought to myself, well, you know what? I want to be a marine biologist, and it's not just about theory. So I needed to figure out where I could get this experience, hands-on practical experience. Now, the theory was very important. And remember, I said I was taught by passionate teachers. So all of you might be teaching specific courses in your classes, in your schools, but also don't forget, it may not be exactly what you're passionate about. Perhaps teaching English is not exactly what you're passionate about, but there may be something in your life that you are completely passionate about. It could be something like gardening, it could be something like meteorology, or it could be astronomy. Make sure you talk to your classes about that, even though it may not be part of the curriculum, because your passion is going to inspire them to believe that they can do something that's different and exciting and fun and enjoy what they do. So make sure passion is part of your teaching, and talk to them about the world. So, at the end of 4 years, I decided, okay, I want to go off and do this practical stuff. So I then had to take another huge leap of faith and find a country somewhere in the world that would allow me to get this experience. Because returning to Sri Lanka was clearly not an option, because I wouldn't have got any research experience in Sri Lanka. So I searched around and I decided New Zealand was a great place. They have great conservation ethics. And also, as a Sri Lankan passport holder, I had to find a country that was could enable me to sort of allow me to stay a little bit longer, and were kind of kind with their visa requirements. So so my heart was set on this. I was all very excited, and then I realized I didn't actually have enough money to go and get across from Scotland to New Zealand. So I had to start saving, and I didn't have enough money in my savings. So then I became a tatty roger. Does anyone out there know what a tatty roger is? Any Scots out there who want to let everyone know what that is? I'm going to pause for 3 seconds. Oh, a lot of no's. Oh, see, exactly. Yeah. Well, a tatty roger is, tatties are potatoes in Scotland. So a tatty roger is a person who basically digs rotting potatoes out of fields. That's the job I took on. Now, it might seem really abstract. It might seem far away from this dream of becoming a marine biologist. And trust me, it was. It was backbreaking. And yes, I saw a comment by someone who lived in St. Andrews who said it can be sunny and warm. Funnily enough, it was sunny and warm the entire time I had this job in the field digging out rotting potatoes. So I did this work. It was pretty backbreaking, but it allowed me to save enough money and to buy a ticket to get to New Zealand. So once I'd saved up, I got my ticket to New Zealand, and then I went over to New Zealand. And when I got there, I realized that, well, I had money to get there, but I didn't have nearly enough to live in any kind of house or a hostel. So I lived in a tent for the best part of 6 months. I don't look so excited in this picture, but trust me, I really did enjoy it. Particularly the day that it rained so hard. There was a moat around my tent, and when I unzipped the front door, there were ducks swimming in circles around my tent. So I had some really fun experiences as a result. But you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. People told me it was summer in New Zealand, but it was really cold. I suppose it's all relative and it's about perspective. So, but so I lived in this tent, and it was a great experience. And I worked on 4 projects related to the oceans all around New Zealand, and they were all volunteer projects. So, you know, again, you know, sometimes we all have to learn that you don't always get jobs and they don't always pay, but that's okay because they might be contributing something valuable, lessons that can take you down this path of passion. And support your students to seek experiences. Again, it might be the craziest experience. So, you know, my parents, I can tell you quite honestly, who have been my greatest teachers, weren't exactly excited about their child going off, especially a South Asian female, traipsing off New Zealand at the age of 21 or 22, trying to find jobs and working without real pay, living in a tent. It wasn't exactly ideal, but my you know, they allowed me to seek experiences. They understood that these experiences were going to take me step by step, baby steps closer to whatever this dream that I had, that I was so passionate about, that they could see as a burning desire within me. And so they supported me to seek these experiences. And I think all of you have this incredible opportunity to also support your students and your kids and your mentees to seek crazy experiences that will mold them for life. So now I'm living in this tent, right? And this is back in the day, before Wi-Fi and, you know, 3G and all of these, you know, easy internet access, even though today may not seem like internet so easily accessible. It was in the time of internet cafes. How many of you remember internet cafes? Please put your hands up so I don't feel like the oldest person in the room. Oh, yes, this is awesome. Okay, great. So I'm talking to the right audience. When I talk to kids, they always look a little bit blank when I talk about internet cafe, because obviously they've been born into this world of internet convenience, right? So this was back in 2002, I believe. And so, you know, with my pocket change, the little money I had, I would go to an internet cafe every other day. I would sit on this old, broken down, slow computer. I would send off emails to my mother, so she knew that I was alive, which was really important to her, obviously, because now she's given me this opportunity to seek an experience. But of course, she was a worrying mother in a tiny island in the Indian Ocean. So I had to write to her. I had to make sure I was responsible about that. At the same time, I was applying for my master's program at Oxford. So type on the computer in time as fast as I could, so I would use minimal time, and rush my tent and sit with the head torch and make corrections on the printout. And you know, this is the time of floppy disks as well. So yeah, it's crazy, right? Kids these days are so much easier. But while I was there, so I got this one email one day, and it was from someone who said that there was this whale research vessel that was circumnavigating the globe and stopping in the Maldives and Sri Lanka. And at this point, I got so excited. I thought, I need to get on to this vessel. That was exactly what I needed to do. And so I found out who owned the vessel, and it was a non-profit organization owned by Roger Payne, who is the father of humpback whale song. Make sure you Google him if you've not heard of him. His recordings of humpback whale songs from the 60s is one of best-selling recordings of all time. So definitely check it out. But it was amazing because, you know, like I thought, you know, the last time a research vessel had come to the northern Indian Ocean to Sri Lanka was 20 years before that. We haven't got these opportunities, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to write. So I found the CEO, and I wrote, and I said, hey, like, you know, I was like, I really want to get onto your vessel. please understand, I'm Sri Lankan. I am the only Sri Lankan who's ever wanted to have a career in this field. I would love the opportunity. Please let me have the chance. And then, you know, I got this message, and I basically heard, you know, back immediately, and I was super excited because I thought, well, that's really kind of them. And the next thing I know, they basically said, well, you know what, we don't have space. So I thought, no, no, this can't be. This is a once in a lifetime chance. So I'm going to make sure I get on, right? So for the next 3 months, I basically wrote to the CEO of this nonprofit every single day, and I basically bartered my skills in exchange for getting on board their vessel. And I said I would do anything, I would do any work if you just let me get on board. And finally, I think they were like, okay, fine, she's really persistent, so we're going to let her on board. And so I said, they gave me 2 weeks in the Maldive Island. So there I am. This is, again, really, remember 2003 internet, you didn't really get on the internet because you posted your own pictures. So this is my first ever appearance on the internet. And you can see I was a deckhand in the Maldives. So the lesson here is, you know, remind your kids they can take any job. Again, remind them, seek experiences. So I took on this job as a deckhand. I was cleaning toilets and I was polishing brass. And so for me, you know, like they gave me this opportunity, which to me was golden, and I didn't want to lose it. And I knew once I got on board, I could essentially prove to them that I had the scientific capabilities to become a marine biologist, right? So so at the end of the 2 weeks, I worked really hard, and as you can tell, they upgraded me from just a deckhand to deckhand and science intern. So I was helping out with some of the science. And so the point here is that they were able to identify persistence as a positive. I was persistent, but I wasn't annoying because I promised them that hard work. I proved to them that I had an opportunity, I had skill, and that whatever they gave me, I would take on with a big smile on my face, and I would keep going. And so I think, you know, you'll find in your classrooms, amongst your kids, that there'll be persistent ones. There'll be little persistent kids in the corner of the room who may not be the loudest, who may not have the craziest ideas, but they are working hard, and that needs to be celebrated. There's a really great quote that I love to hold close to my heart. Genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. I think it's by Benjamin Franklin, and I think that's so true. You know, work really hard. So celebrate all the students in your classroom who work hard. They may not have the idea of the future, but you know what? Everyone has a role to play in moving up and forward, and for us to really grow and develop as a country, as a world, in a most positive manner. So my story with blue whales, and the reason I became a National Geographic Explorer, is because of my work with blue whales out in Sri Lanka. And so again, it's another story. I understand, you know, you can all pick out lessons from what I'm telling you. There are a few lessons that I've pointed out, but I think there might be others that you might be able to pick out. And it'd be really helpful if you just type them in, because they'll be useful for me to use and maybe emphasize as I do more of these webinars in the future. But so this particular day was this beautiful, calm day on the ocean. We were sailing. I was on this research vessel that I finally managed to get on. We were off the southeast coast of Sri Lanka, and we'd been working with sperm whales. So our work was very hard work. You know, we would drop underwater microphones into the ocean and record sperm whales, and then try to track them down and collect samples from them to understand how the toxins in the ocean, what are the levels of toxins in the ocean. So we're really trying to understand what the problems in the ocean are in terms of pollution. And so we're out there, and you can see it's a beautiful flat calm day. I know it's a beautiful picture because that's what it looks like, not a drop of wind. But when there's no wind, it's really hot, right? And so we were out there, and I was looking out for these signs of sperm whales. I could hear their sounds coming from the pilot house below me, because we had their recordings on, it was live. We were listening to them live. They were somewhere out in the ocean, and they were on loudspeaker. But I was looking, and in order to sort of research expeditions are very expensive. We try to collect as much data as possible. And so during daylight hours, we have someone on deck looking out for signs of life and recording anything else we see. So I was the person up on deck, staring out at sea, and I was looking out and trying to find these sperm whales, and I was getting really frustrated. I knew what I was looking for because sperm whales tend to, when they exhale, when they blow, you see a spout that's slanted off to the left-hand side because they only have one blowhole on the left-hand side. But I couldn't see any. But I stared and I stared, and I thought, you know what? I just have to keep at it. This is my job. I have to stay on watch for 2 hours. It's really tiring. It's very hot. My eyes are boiling, burning out of my head. But I thought to myself, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to keep working at it. And that's when I saw this. I saw this was this big, fabulous, powerful blow out in the distance. And I thought to myself, that's not a sperm whale. That's something bigger and more incredible than a sperm whale. That was my first blue whale. And I saw it in the distance and I thought, wow, wow, I want to see this. Something's happening. This is exciting. So I basically grabbed my walkie-talkie, which is how I had to communicate with the captain. And I said, Bob, you know what? There's something out there. It's not a sperm whale. I can tell distinctly it's different. It's at 11 o'clock, about 2 kilometers away. Let's move. And he says to me, what is it? And I thought, I don't know, but let's go see it. And, at that point, he supported my crazy harebrained idea to go off in a different direction. We were moving off the course of our scientific work to go and explore this thing. It was a big chance that he took on me. But he believed in me when I spoke with so much excitement. So we started moving faster and faster and faster in this direction. Now I'm thinking to myself, I think it's a blue whale. I think this is a blue whale. And I'm thinking, okay, what is it? Why would a blue whale be in this part of the ocean? So what I'd learned in my textbooks and in university and from my lecturers was that blue whales undergo long-range migrations between cold feeding areas and warm breeding and calving areas. And Sri Lanka, as you all might have noticed from the map that I showed you, is just very close to the equator. It's about 5 degrees above the equator. So, it's as warm and tropical as you can get. And so these whales couldn't be feeding there. That's what I thought. But they were probably breeding and calving. And so I got really excited because I thought I was going to be the first person to document blue whales breeding or having babies. So I started urging the captain to move forward faster and faster and faster. And we started moving, and I was so excited. And as we started getting close, I thought, wow, I'm starting to lose my mind because there wasn't one blue whale, but there were about 6 blue whales in an area the size of a football pitch. Now, think about it. These are the largest animals that have ever lived on the planet. They live in 70% of our planet. Yet they were choosing to aggregate in this tiny area in warm tropical oceans. And I knew something special was happening. So we sat down, we got to the location, we looked around and we watched, and they weren't mating and they weren't having babies. So at this point, I was a little disappointed because that's what I was expecting to see. And so I'm staring at these whales are just hanging out. They're kind of diving. They're coming up to the surface. They're not doing a whole lot of breeding or having babies. A little disappointed because I really thought this was going to be my moment and I was going to become famous. So, it was one of those, I thought I was having an overnight success moment, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. But then I urged the captain to sort of sit around and watch a little longer. And then this is what I saw. This, can anyone guess what this is? Anyone have an idea? I can see a few people typing furiously. All right, so we have a little bit of blood. That's not accurate. Poop. That's exactly what it is. That's blue whale poop. and I want you all to acknowledge how beautiful it is before we move on from this slide. Um, Absolutely stunning. Yeah, it's really beautiful. So seeing this poop was my eureka moment. And you know why? Because seeing poop means that these animals were feeding somewhere close. Now, remember how I told you that blue whales feed in cold waters normally, like the Antarctic. This is the tropics, the equator, and yet we were seeing evidence of feeding. No one had documented this before. No one had talked about it before. No one had been excited about the fact that these animals were feeding in warm waters, thereby breaking these stereotypes and these rules that we had made for these animals. And what our textbooks were telling us, which now didn't seem so accurate. So the poop is red because of they eat tiny crustaceans, and there's oils in the body that makes the poop red. So at this point, there were two things that could have happened. We could have thought, okay, there's poop, that's great, let's move away, whatever. It could be a one-off encounter, or we could have thought, well, there's poop. I don't know what to do with it, or we could have left before we saw the poop, and then no discovery would have been made. But my team celebrated my curiosity. So never underestimate the importance of curiosity, because they were supportive. I was the most junior person on board. I was just a deckhand and a science intern. All the others were scientists and professional crew members, but they went with my desire to move toward that sighting, which was kind of a crazy moment, and they allowed me to explore this moment and be curious and ask questions. And because of that, I had my eureka moment. And the research that I'm best known for today actually stemmed from this particular moment in time. Encourage questions and thinking outside the box. There are a lot of kids who also live outside the box, and that's fine, that's fun. They're pushing boundaries. We're all born into boxes, and the more we push those boundaries, the more fun we can have, the more we can come up with new solutions for our planet, new jobs, new tasks, new challenges. We can solve new challenges. So encourage that in your students, in your kids, in your mentees. Make sure that they know it's okay. When they come up with crazy creative ideas or come up with a new name of a fish, that's okay, because that's the kind of stuff we need. We need creativity in this world. I'm a scientist, but I believe in creativity because that's what's going to change the world. And allowing kids to just fly with this imagination is really, really important. And all of you have this great opportunity to allow that to happen. So just so you know, my job as a whale feces collector and a blue whale researcher, but a whale feces collector was voted as one of the 9 worst jobs in science by Popular Science. But of course, I disagree, because whale feces is really important. Not only does it give us a clue to what these animals are eating, but it's extremely important in the whale pump, in fertilizing the oceans. So you can go, I have a TED talk on that also actually, called Why You Should Care About Whale Poop. So if you care to understand a little bit about how important whale poop is for the oceans and fertilizing it, please go ahead and watch that when you can. And here's a quote that I think is really, really exciting and fun, and something that's really important and relevant. Discovery is seeing what everybody else has seen, and thinking what no one else has thought. So like I said, at that moment, there had been other people who'd seen blue whale poop, right, in our oceans. Fishermen had seen it, and they'd sailed right past. There had been a crew of scientists that had been in Sri Lankan waters 20 years before that had mentioned they had seen blue whale poop. But nobody had thought, well, this is unique, this is special, this is breaking boundaries, this is pushing the stereotype that we've created for blue whales. And so it became a discovery because I had to think beyond what other people had thought. So allow for that in your students, allow for that in your kids and in your mentees. So this is me actually on the water with one of my crews from a couple of years ago. That's me in the red jacket right up front. We spend about 8 to 10 hours a day just standing and staring out the ocean. It is hard work, but again, it's all about persistence. So my whole story really revolves around this whole idea of persistence, as you can probably tell. And so this is actually the fanciest boat we've used. We have very little access to good boats. Our most important requirement is a canopy, so we don't get burnt to cinders in the hot sun. but nothing stands in the way of discovery for us. And so to my teams as well, when I get out on the water with them, they're usually young, aspiring scientists. I teach them to be vigilant and pay attention to the world around them. It's really, really important for them to look around and pay attention. And all 8 hours, all 10 hours, it's extremely tiring, but you have to keep your eyes peeled because you never know what you're going to see. The ocean is a vast space. Seeing things, finding things it's like a needle in a haystack. But if you teach them to be vigilant and pay attention, discoveries happen. And that's really kind of amazing. And here's one of those amazing moments that we had on water. This is a big group of tiny shrimp-like creatures. These are actually krill that we found swarming in the water. Now, blue whales typically globally will feed on these krill, but and you will see surface feeding. So if any of you live in places like California, you might have had the opportunity of seeing blue whales, and you might have had the better opportunity of actually seeing them surface feeding on big swarms of krill. But out here in Sri Lanka, we don't have that opportunity. Our whales like to be different, so they tend to dive deeper to feed. We don't see surface swarms of krill ever, or any kind of crustacean. But this 1 year, 2 years ago, after working on these whales since 2008, in 2014, years and years and years of being on the water, I saw this swarm of krill. And it was such a magical moment. My interns who'd only been working with me that season didn't understand why I was so excited. But it was really exciting because it was something that nobody else had documented. And this allowed us to further the science and further the knowledge that we had about these oceans. So prepare the students to expect the unexpected. That's actually the motto on my board. I tell them when they get on, when they join my team, expect the unexpected. You never know what you're going to see. So vigilance, paying attention is extremely important in that context as well. And we collected a sample. As you can see, I've got a jar in my hand. That's a sample of that krill. That's going to help us to identify what these animals are feeding on, just like we collect poo samples also to be able to understand what these animals are feeding on. And because we've always kept an open mind and an open heart and not worn blinders while we're on the ocean, we've seen some incredible things. We've seen whale sharks, we've seen manta rays, we've seen unusual species that very few people in this world will ever get to see. And that's because my team is I'm giving them the freedom to expect something that they may not expect to see. Whale sharks are very rare in our waters. It's very hard to see manta rays. We see beak whales, which are extremely elusive animals that we don't get to see very often. And because they expect the unexpected, they're ready at any moment to document and keep their eyes peeled for something unusual, and not just blue whales. I haven't told them just to look up for blue whales. So that's another thing. If we can all teach kids to expect the unexpected, life will throw various challenges at you. Life will throw amazing, magical moments, and let them be prepared by keeping open hearts and open minds. That's really, really important. Support and encourage your students and kids so much that you become part of their tribe. We all need magical ingredients in our lives. As you might have picked up by now, my parents are my magic ingredient. They gave me the wings to fly. Teachers have such an important role to play in this exact same way. I believe teachers and parents play the same roles in our lives. And so if you support and encourage them, you can be part of that tribe. You'll be part of their story, and they will become your legacy. They will live on and make you proud. If you invest in them, I can promise you that they will not let you down. This is part of my tribe, the TED Fellows family that I'm part of. All very inspiring people, all very crazy, out of the box thinkers who have big dreams, and they encourage me and support me. I'm encouraged and support also by a lot of strangers around the world. A lot of people follow my work and send me notes, and emails, send me messages, ask me questions, post comments on my Facebook page, my Instagram, my Twitter, and that's so important to me, because I know that there's a community out there that believes in me and supports and encourages. I know I can't make everyone in this world happy. I'm going to have people who love what I do, who love what I talk about, who love and join me in my dream, and then there are people who won't. And that's okay. I need to invest in those people who do. And you can be part of that tribe too. Teachers are extremely important. So never underestimate your role. Never underestimate how important you are. Every action you take, everything you do, you are inspiring and changing the life of a child, changing the life of a person, changing the life of someone around you. So keep at what you do. You're a very important part of our story. So that's me. We're coming to a close, but that's me with 2 pots of blue whale poop. Now that you know what it looks like, you know I collect the stuff. It's very exciting. I collect it to understand what these animals eat. I can also tell you it has a very nice silky feel to it. I love talking about it in detail. Not everyone agrees, but there you go. And another quote for all of you, I think this is fantastic, particularly for you teachers. It's important that students bring a certain ragamuffin, barefoot irreverence to their studies. They're not there to worship what is known, but to question it. So as teachers, as parents, as mentors, I think we play a really important role at teaching students, but also giving them that freedom to question. You can't be offended if they question you, if they challenge you. You should be open to that as well and be strong to that. It's really super, super important that you stay open to that. I know there are kids who might be a little more difficult, who might be much more challenged, but be open to the fact that, you know, I don't think I know everything I need to know about anything. I never will know everything. And I'm open to, you know, I love going to classrooms with kids because they ask me questions that really make me think, you know. And that's important to me. That's important to my own personal learning. And I think we all can learn from our students as well. So that's really, really important. Teachers, unfortunately, in some cultures they're taught that teachers are the be all and end all, in the sense that they know everything. You can't question them because whatever they tell you is the most important thing, and that's it. That's all you need to know, and that is inaccurate. We are all human, and we also evolve. We also change with what people ask us, how people interact with us. So all your questions and comments today, I will go through them at the end, even after we've got off this call. And you are going to help me to, learn a little more about how I can change the way I think, how I can move forward also. So thank you so much in advance. And my final slide for today, encourage your students, your kids, your mentors to have fun, and make sure you do too. I generally don't do anything that I don't find fun, and it may sound like a luxury, but it's not. I do a lot of challenging things. I have a lot of ups and downs. I faced a lot of lot of pushback on my work. I faced threats. I faced all kinds of challenges that a lot of people would never have to face. But I make sure I'm having fun and I'm laughing through it all, and I surround myself with people who can help me to see the fun in life, who can and enjoy it. And I surround myself with children because I think they allow me to remember how life can be fun and how life should be. And this photograph was taken at the New England Aquarium. Actually, I was there exactly 1 year ago on a fellowship, and I did a bunch of talks, and this is their giant ocean tanks. That's my last slide. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you've had the opportunity to gain something out of this, and maybe a few lessons. And perhaps if there are some particular lessons that I've not really talked about, you can put them in the comments box so I remember to include them in any webinars I do in the future. Thanks so much for being here. It's been amazing. I really wish I could have shown you my face because I'm a really enthusiastic speaker, and you could have seen my crazy hand movements and gestures and facial expressions, which usually make most people laugh. Thanks for everything.
Hello, everyone. I know we are running over just a little bit, but we do have a couple of minutes for questions. So actually, I saw a really great question a while back that Jennifer Farley made, that she is actually 7 years old on this webinar, and she wanted to know if seeing a blue whale for the first time was scary.
Actually, no, seeing a blue whale for the first time for me was so exciting because I realized that I had the privilege that maybe less than 1% of the whole world will ever have. And I had the privilege of being side by side with the largest animal that has ever lived on the planet. It's larger in mass than the biggest dinosaur that's ever lived. And to think we're sharing our world with the biggest animal that's ever lived on the planet, to me was more exciting than scary.
Absolutely, definitely. And here's another question that I saw. Um, I work with pre-teenagers who are not allowed to speak out, speak their own opinion, or express their individuality. Because they're entering puberty, they feel embarrassed by their mistakes. They don't want to stand up in front of their peers. They don't want to participate. As a result, their voices are getting smaller, weaker, and in some cases non-existent. How can I reach out to these students, convince them that English is an enjoyable tool for communication, and help them reach higher goals?
So that's a great question. I myself am not strictly a teacher, so I guess a few thoughts I would have is I think that's a really important thing. Is we do start to lose a lot of voices at that age, and that's possibly the most important age, because at the age of 12, 13, when they're going through puberty, they're growing brain cells and neurons, and the ones that inspire them the most, whatever they learn at that time in their life is really what's going to stay with them forever. So it's a really important formative stage. I think at that age there might be a need to have to work with them a little more one-on-one, give them a little bit of time away from other students. You can maybe do some exercises where they, you don't have to talk out in class, but they get to write their ideas or thoughts on paper anonymously, so they feel a little more empowered, a little bit
Yeah.
more courageous to have a voice, and they don't feel like they'll be pointed at or laughed at, or kids tend to do that. We all as kids have been cruel, and that's just the way it works. But just in learning to, I guess, figuring out how to bring their voices out without putting the spotlight on them might be
Yeah.
a couple of ideas. So I hopefully that'll help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna take a look at another question. I saw another one a while back. Oh, Dave, did you pick up on a question?
Basically, the question is, we all know that we want our students to be curious and engaged, and we want to definitely curate that curiosity, but do you ever feel like sometimes that curiosity actually works against us or even students, and instead pulls them away from areas that they should be focusing on? And if you ever do feel that way, how have you tried to kind of manipulate that back into a positive experience?
So I can see what you mean, because I think they can get really distracted by curiosity and possibly go down paths. I do try to remind kids, when they come to me and they're like, yeah, but I have to take maths and I have to take science, and I have to, I don't enjoy it. I try to remind them that getting through school is really important, because after school, if they keep working at it, then they can do whatever they want in the world. I try to allow them to be curious. I listen to stories. I love listening to their stories. I ask them to write them down or draw pictures and illustrate them so that we can capture them and don't lose them. But then I also try to channel their curiosity into maybe subject. I would rather, again, I'm not a teacher, so this is just thoughts. But I would try to channel their curiosity into whatever subject they're taking. So for example, I think this idea of topic-based education, I think kids should be talking about the ocean every day. I think we should be teaching math classes by talking about the ocean, talking about the number of fish in the sea. We should be talking about science classes about the ocean. There might be things that certain kids are more curious about, and it might be a certain topic. And perhaps if we can try to think about certain areas of math or problems, or like those important subjects, marrying their curiosity with that, it might be helpful. I hope that's kind of a useful suggestion in some way.